Okay, this is 1-2, and this is called Properties of Numbers. You'll see a picture right below that has the commutative property, the associative property, and the identity property. Those are the three main properties we're going to talk about for a little bit, and they each mean something. The commutative property is that you can add in any order and multiply in any order. And then there's a few examples here and here, like 3 plus 8 is 11, but 8 plus 3 is 11. Or 5 times 7 is 35, but so is 7 times 5. Okay? And this is the algebra examples, and they're just showing you with letters because algebra deals a lot with letters. The associative property says when you add or multiply, you can group the numbers together in any combination. In elementary, you were probably taught how to take bigger numbers apart when you were adding them to make them easier to add or regroup. If you had something like 18 plus 10 plus 12, regroup it so you have 18 plus 12 plus 10, okay, because this is a little bit easier to add because you have 18 and here's the extra 2. That's the associative property. You can regroup those numbers when you add and you'll get the same thing. Same when you multiply. The identity property is probably the easiest one out of all of them. And what that says is when adding, if you add 0 to a number, the number stays the same. So 4 plus 0, right here, is 4. And it says when you multiply any number by 1, it stays the same. So 8 times 1 equals 8. So those are the main things about those. You're going to want to put these in your notes because on your quiz that you have, I believe it's next week, it may give you a few different problems and you might have to get to your answer and show which properties you used along the way. So it'll be important that those are in your notes. If you can't read those very well, I think they're pretty easy to read, but they are in your book on 1-2, all right? So the first thing we're going to look at is example 1. And example 1 heading is identifying properties of addition and multiplication. So we have the following on example A. We have 2 plus 7 plus 8 equals 2 plus 7 in parentheses plus 8. Okay? Now, if you look at these, we are adding the same three numbers. We're just adding numbers together in a different order. On the left side, we would add the 7 and the 8 first, and then add the 2 and get 17. On the right side, we would add the 2 and the 7 together first, and then add the 8 and get 17. So that is our associative property, where we can add in any order. Okay, so I'm just going to put associative. The next one is the following. 25 times 1 equals 25, and if we look back at our properties, the identity property told us that if we multiply a number by 1, it remains itself. And the third example down there is xy equals yx. You can pretend those are numbers too if you would like, if it makes it easier. But if you look at the commutative property, the algebra example looks fairly similar, except it uses different letters. We can multiply in any order and get the same answer. So this is our commutative. Okay, so those examples and those, the definition, not only the definition, but these numbers and algebra examples are going to be helpful because all I did was, for the commutative property, was look right here and I got my answer. Okay, so now we're going to look at example 2. And what we're doing here is we're simplifying each expression and justifying each step. Okay, so when you were in elementary, you probably learned to reorder numbers so they were easier to add. So for example, we have 2 more than 10 here, 2 less than 20 here. So we're going to put those together to make it easier to add. When we regroup those, that is called the commutative property. And I'm just going to put CP, and I'm fine if you do that as well. Then I want to add 12 and 18 first because that's the easiest 2 to add. So I'm going to put those in parentheses, which tells me to do that first. The associative property tells me that I can put those in any order and add. So then that makes it really easy because you should know 12 plus 18 is 30 plus 19. So this is we're going to add. That's our justification, and when we add that, we get 49. The next one is 25 times 13 times 4. 25 is a basic number that you should know the multiples of pretty well. And if I was going to choose between multiplying 25 by 13 and multiplying 25 by 4, I would choose to multiply 25 by 4 first, because that's easier. So we reordered. We can multiply in any order, which that is the commutative property. Okay? Now I want to show that you must multiply 25 times 4 first. So I'm going to put those in parentheses, because like order of operations says what's in parentheses you must do first. That is the associative property. Okay? We can regroup and group however our little hearts desire with multiplication. And then 25 times 4 is 100. Times 13, and 100 times 13 is 1300. So this step here we multiplied, and that is our justification. All right, so like I said, I'm fine with CP, AP, and IP, so you don't have to write the whole thing out because I know that gets time consuming. The next thing we're going to talk about is the distributive property. We use the distributive property to remove parentheses when there's 2 terms inside the parentheses. A lot of times you would just say, oh, we do 9 plus 14, and then we multiply it by 6. That is true, but there is another way we can do that, okay? So on example 3, it says, use the distributive property to find 7, should make sure my pen's working, 7 times 29, okay? And we're going to look at this, and we're going to say what 2 tens place is 29 between. It is between 20 and it is between 30, and that's how we're going to start finding our 2 ways, okay? So if I have 20 of the 29, how many do I have to add to it? I need another 9, right? And if I have 30 of the 29, how do I get to 29? I subtract 1, okay? So how we're going to look at this is we're going to use this outside number here, and we're going to write that down first, okay? Then we're going to start parentheses. Our top number is going to be our first number in our parentheses. Our second number is going to be the second number in our parentheses, all right? We're going to do the same thing with this section as well. This outside number of 7 is still going to be outside. We're going to start our parentheses, and then the top number is going to be our first number in the parentheses, and our bottom number is going to be the second. And notice how that is a -1, so I'm going to use a subtraction sign instead of a plus sign. Okay? Now how this works is I'm going to take the 7 times 20, and then I'm going to take the 7 times 9. So when I write that out, I need to have the following. I need to have 7 times 20, bring down the plus sign, and then have 7 times 9, okay? 7 times 20 is 140, which should be easy to figure out in your head because 7 times 2 is 14, bring down the 0, and you should know that 7 times 9 is 63, okay? When you add these together, 140 plus 60 is 200, and then you have 3 more, so it's 203. Okay? What we're doing is we're breaking down the numbers to help us make it simpler to find the answer. So on the second one, we need to do the same thing. We have to do 7 times 30, and then we have to do 7 times -1. So we have to take 7 times 30, we have to bring down our minus sign, and then do 7 times 1. 7 times 30 should be easy because 7 times 3 is 21, and you bring down your 0, and then you should all know that 7 times 1 is 7, and 210 minus 7 should be fairly simple to figure out in your head. So that makes it a lot easier. Notice how we got the same exact answers, whether we broke it down from 20 or broke it down from 30. I'm going to do one more distributive property just for those who want another example. So 34 is between the 30s and the 40s. Okay? If we have 30, we need 4 more to get 34. But if we're at 40, we need to subtract 6 to get to 34. This 6, last time, was on this side. You can go ahead and erase that 6, and you can put it on this side if you would like. It means the same thing. So, remember this 6 is always our outside number. The top number is the first term. The bottom number is the second term, and that's a +4, so we put a plus sign. Then we do our second one. Still, the 6 is outside. The top number is our first term. The bottom number is our second term, and remember there's a negative there. So we put -6. And then we have to multiply the 6 by the 30, and then the 6 by the 4. So we do 6 times 30 plus 6 times 4. 6 times 3 is 18, and then we add the 0, plus 6 times 4 is 24. And when you add those together, you know 180 plus 20 is 200, and you have 4 more, so it's 204. Now let's look at this next one. You have 6 times 40, and you have 6 times -6. So that 6 goes first, times 40. You bring down your minus sign, and you bring down 6 times 6. 6 times 4 is 24, and then you bring down your 0, minus 6 times 6 is 36. 240 minus 30 is 210, and then when you take another 6 off of that, it's 204. So those are equal, so you know you did it right. So check Canvas for your assignment.